Hey guys, how you doing? This is Chris Parsons, and I'm here with my host JP Fluellen. And thank you for joining us again for another Success Agent podcast, where we talk about different strategies to help busy agents sell more homes while spending less time and less money to do so. Today, we're going to be talking about using scripts, specifically using scripts for your business and finding what works for you. I've talked with a lot of agents over the years, and it's funny. It seems like there's two sides to the argument. One side is totally for scripts, and the other side is completely against them. And the funny thing is, I believe that we're always using scripts. Even if you're just saying hi and how was your day to your fiance or your loved one or your wife, or just trying to see if someone wants to set up a time to call. For example, when's a good time to chat? We use scripts all the time, and even if you realize it or not, they're super important to your business. We really want to drill down on finding a script that works for you, and also learning how to use it best. So JP, do you use scripts in your business?
Yes. When you're doing an initial engagement with your client or a lead that you have, to really get them to engage, there's certain key phrases and things that you just need to say in order to initiate conversation, especially if it's a cold call.
Yeah.
And if you're not staying on top of the techniques and the way that, people's behavior, then you're just going to be fumbling through it. You're not going to have a quick, witty response. And then that lead's going to just come and go because they're going to be like, yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm out.
Right.
So I think the thing that it comes down to is that if you have a certain phraseology that you just continue to say over and over and over and over and over again, then it becomes natural, and then you can continue to flow all the way through. So like if you had a client that called on the phone and, they're just like, hey, I want to see this property. Well, what are you going to say? Hold on for 1 second. Let me go look it up in MLS.
Right.
And they're just going to be like, well, okay, and so then it doesn't keep the flow of the way that you interact with these people in order to get them to, go down the path of setting the appointment or showing the house or just giving them the information that they need and somehow booking the appointment, because that's what this whole business is all about, is booking the appointments. And if you don't have the right things to say, then you're not going to be able to book the appointments, because they're going to railroad you as something that you didn't know or didn't know how to come back to. And then you just lost that guy when they were just like, I was so close to booking the appointment. And then they just was like, okay, bye. And that's what you want to avoid is the okay, bye. They're like, okay, great. Well, that Thursday works for me too. All right. We'll see you at 4:00. Perfect. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Right. Well, like you said, it all comes down to confidence. And if you're like on the phone and you don't know how to respond to something because you weren't expecting their response, you're just going to sit there and fumble with your words, and you're not even going to know what to say. And chances are you're going to totally screw the whole conversation up, and they're going to leave thinking, wow, okay, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's completely confused about what I just asked him, when the answer was pretty straightforward, but he was just caught off guard.
Exactly. I mean, and the thing about scripts too is that it gives you a framework to work within, rather than just kind of like, oh, I'm a salesman. Everybody says, oh, I'm a salesman, and it's like, okay, well then sell me on buying this $500,000 house and why I should buy it from you. It's big.
It's got a front door. It's got a basement.
Right. And okay. So, well, how long has it been on the market? Hold on. Let me look that up for you real quick. Okay, great. How long, who is the previous owner? Who's the builder? Whatever. I mean, you got to have a framework in order to have these conversations with these people, in order to make sure that you're going down the path of success, which is what this podcast is all about, right?
Absolutely.
So it comes down to like, if you just do it the same way over and over and over and over and over again, and it becomes ingrained, and then it's no longer a script, it's just the way you do business.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like drip emails, actually, because when you say the same things over and over and over again, you actually get real data, real input on how that thing is performing. So therefore you can make changes and then judge those changes based on prior data. So it's not only just having the script, but also tracking it, but it works the same way in my mind as drip campaigns. you do the same thing over and over again, you get results, and then you implement changes based on what you're seeing. You know, the scientific method.
Right.
Test, see your results, repeat the test, see your results, and then make a change and see how that works out.
Yeah, or like if you're doing click funnels, you got to split test your things and whatever gives you the best responses. So the thing with that too is then you've got to find the script that works the best with your personality. But one thing that I have the argument with my people all the time is the words in the script are just as important as the script itself. Because there's a series of psychological responses to certain words that gets people to continue down the path that you want them to go down. Whereas you go in there and instead of saying something like, hey, how's the website working out for you? And you say, hey, so how many kids do you have? And they're going to go, what? Like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, it was in the script. Well, dude, you changed the script. That's why it's not working, because the words are very specific and they're in that order for a reason, because somebody had lots of success and enough success to write those down in that way in order to go down that path. And so it's important to not, when you're doing a script, to not start changing all the words and all that stuff. Because then if you start changing words and you think you're trying to be slick, and then you change the meaning of what you're saying, you know, if you say, you know, live instead of live, you know, that could change the whole way that the rest of that sentence is going to go down. And then next thing you know, you're like, what are you, live? Like, I'm alive. Like, are you alive? Like, it's weird. Oh, bye, you know?
Right. Well, it's like also kind of like, yeah, you nailed it. It's like those questions are designed to be asked the way they are, because you can change a simple word at the very beginning, like, when is a good time to call you? Or can I call you later? Like, those are two pretty similar questions, but you ask when, it's not a yes or no question. Whereas if you ask can, now it's giving them an out, right? Exactly. They could just say, no, you can't. And then what are you going to say? Well, nothing. There's no script to that. They've already given you the rejection, the cold, hard rejection of, no, you can't talk to me.
And scripts have tie down language too. They call them tie downs, where you're like, you nail them down to a specific result. Yeah. So, hey, can I meet you at the property at 5? Or does 6 work better for you? Mm-hmm. Well, that gives them choices 5 or 6, instead of saying things like, hey, what's your week look like? Well, my week looks like crap because, you know, I've got all these things going on and stuff, so that's not going to work for me. But if you say, okay, well, how about Friday at noon? Oh, Friday at noon works for me then, you know, because you know, people want to give you answers, but when you don't ask the right questions, they're just going to figure out a way to get out of the conversation, because it's not natural for people to continue to have a conversation with people that they don't know.
Right.
Unless you're at the gym and you have a common ground and you're like, what's up, dude? Hey, how's that workout going? Oh, it's going great. I don't know you, but hey, how's the biceps treating you? You know, like whatever. You know?
Right. Well,
so, but you still have common ground. Like when you're cold calling someone, the only thing that you have in common is you're both on the phone. You know, that's it. And then you're like, okay, let's figure this out. Like, how do we come to that common ground as quickly as possible? Well, scripts guide you down that process in order to create the relationship with the right words. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where you start changing words around, you start doing all this stuff. Because I was a telemarketer for 2.5 years, and I was a supervisor, and I taught people how to talk on the phones and how to close people without getting them mad. Mm-hmm. And so there's just a certain, and this is with all language, generally speaking, is that, you know, there's a response you can give without responding to what they're saying specifically. So, you know, like, hey, I want to see that house. Okay, great. Well, what part of town are you interested in? And then they're going to be like, oh, well, no one's ever asked me that before. Even though they asked a very specific question, you gave them a general response.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, well, we just want to be in a newer house. Oh, okay. So, you know, what's your price range?
Yeah.
You know, you didn't say, well, what's a newer house? well, what's a newer house look like to you? You just kind of narrowed it down to like, okay, price range, because price range automatically gives you, okay, there's probably going to be some newer houses in this price range. So it's kind of like, it also comes back to, if you don't have that framework in that script, then you're not going to, if you're not a salesman and you're not used to like coming up with things on the spot, or if you're not a comedian and make people laugh and they just stay engaged just because you're funny, even though they don't know what the hell you're saying, they will stay engaged, and then you get down to what it is exactly that they're looking for, and then you can continue to guide, because you want to, if you go off script, you want to try to get back to script as possible, because the moment you go off script, then you go down this path that's uncharted territory that ends up becoming chaos, and then a hang up, or a what just happened, or why did they hang up? And then you're asking yourself, well, it's because I didn't stay on the script, because the script has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And usually it always ends with booking the appointment. So,
right. So for your frameworks, I mean, like, what kind of frameworks do you follow? Obviously, like, there's the building the rapport. When you're first calling someone, you got to build your rapport. But like, what happens after that? Let's just say you're calling a new buyer lead from your website.
Okay. So, so a buyer calls me and they're like, yeah, hi, I was just on your website and just wanted to see, this property on such and such street. So I'm like, great. Would you like to book in? Would you like to set up a showing? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Oh, do you own or rent? Well, I rent. Okay, great. So have you thought about making a move anytime soon? And they're like, well, I haven't really thought about it. Oh, okay, great. Because, right now a lot of renters are moving into being buyers, because a lot of times you can buy for a lot less than what you're paying in rent. Have you ever thought about that? Well, not really. I guess I never really thought that I could even buy a house. Oh, okay, great. So do you have any like banks that you're working with, or any lenders that you prefer in town? Yeah, I bank over at Bank of the West. Oh, okay, great. Well, I know one of the lenders down there. I'd love to introduce you to them and get you down with them and get you an appointment. And then, if it's something that works out for you, maybe you can give me a call back and we can go look at some houses. Oh, okay, great. All right. Well, does tomorrow at 5 work for you? I can call them and set something up for you. And that's the tie down right there. And then they're like, oh yeah, tomorrow at 5 will be great. Okay, cool. Well, I'll reach out to them. I'll give you guys each other their information, and they'll be calling out to you shortly. And then awesome, fantastic. And then, because usually if they're online and you've already got their information, because it's a lead capture system and stuff like that. So, which goes into, CRMs and which ones are good and which ones aren't.
Right.
Another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That is a whole new topic for seriously, like a long webinar. Yeah. I mean, so what are your opinions about being alpha? Because I've heard it all the time that you need to be alpha to close. So for realtors, closing is going to be setting the appointment. Have you found that you needed to be the alpha, the showman, the outgoing, super charismatic person to set that appointment, or
Nope, it's repetition. I think it comes down to repetition. You get your confidence through the repetition.
Right.
So, I mean, I could probably, when I was doing telemarketing, I could get anybody if they would just do these things, but the problem that ends up becoming the bigger issue is that you get in the way of your success. Mm-hmm. And so some people are just terrified of the phones. Like, they are just terrified of the phones. So that's where role playing scripts really gets the goosebumpies and the I'm so afraid of doing this out of the way, because you got it out.
Yeah.
Dude,
I remember the first time
when you got to take your morning deuce, you just got to get it out of the way, and then you can move on with the rest of your day. Like, you just got to get it done, and then you can move on. So it's the same thing with getting on the phones.
Yeah.
Dude, get your role plays out of the way, get your deuce out of the way, and then get on the phones, So,
dude, I remember the first time I did a sales call. And I was just like, I had my script. I didn't really practice it enough. I guess I was like, oh yeah, I'll just like read it off. I'll just read it off, no problem. And like you just read some of the literature, and it just like doesn't make sense to how I talk. So I was just fumbling left and right on different aspects. And at one point, the lady was like, I was selling her a website. At one point, she was like, "Oh, are you reading a script?" And I'm like, no, I'm not. I've really practiced this a lot." But it was just like that was that eye opening. Be like, wow, you could tell it
Well,
that much.
but what's crazy though is so like the if somebody ever says that to you, all you got to say is, well, yeah, I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right information, because wouldn't that be weird if I was just talking and telling you stuff that was like inaccurate? And they're
Right.
like, well, yeah, I guess that does make sense. So yeah, I mean, it does. You know, I want to make sure that I'm conveying the right information about our company so that you feel confident that, you know, that what I'm saying is truthful and it's useful. Otherwise, you know, what I'm saying could end up going down some path of, you know, inaccuracy. And I just want to make sure that what we're conversing about is accurate.
Well, I think you just
You know?
nailed it too, because that's obviously like what you just told me. If someone asks if I'm using a script and your response was, well, yeah, wouldn't you prefer? Like that alone is a script, and that can completely change the course of the conversation. You know, if you were to answer, like, you know, real unsure of yourself, like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, that could really turn them off. But if you answer the same question in almost the same way, I mean, you said, yes, I'm using a script, but you had a way to circumvent um, that negative circumstance, and that's because of a script.
Right.
So I think
Well,
that's a prime example.
yeah, and the key to that is go off script, right back on script.
Yeah.
What you can't do is let that derail you from staying on
Right.
script.
Yeah.
Because I mean, because when I was doing telemarketing, I was selling long distance, you know, to people. And the thing that people would always ask, "Oh, are you reading from a script?" And you just go, you know, and then you'd have a rebuttal because you'd end up knowing, you know, that this rebuttal was going to happen. And if they say, "Oh, are you reading from a script?" And even after doing that for 2.5 years and doing it for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, like I would still read my rebuttals because I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I had the right words in the right order so that they would say, "Oh, you're reading a script?" "Yeah, I'm actually reading a script." But you know what's important though is that we stay with the script so that you get the information that you need. So do you rent or own? You know, like that, you just go
Right.
back right into it. Like, and the thing too is like, you know, you can't let that phase you, because if it phases you and then because they're going to try to throw off your game, you know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I mean, I had one guy one time, it was called Touch One, the long distance company.
Yeah.
And, I called a guy one time and he was like, "Yeah, you could touch me." And it totally like threw me way off, dude. And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm guessing you're not interested." And he's like, "Well, is it long distance?" And I was like, "Okay, time to go." Click, you know, like, you know, it was going down the path of like, all right, that's not gonna work, you know. So, but it did. I mean, the thing is, you can't let that phase you because you got
Yeah.
44 more calls to make, you know, and so you just got to
Right.
keep on working with it.
So how do you get your rebuttals then? Because like I think, you know, so the script is obviously super important, but you're gonna have objections. As
Mm-hmm.
we just talked about, being able to handle those objections properly and positively, that makes a big difference in the overall conversation. How do you create your rebuttals?
So really, I mean, if you go online, you can search for scripts that are pretty much, they're so generic that the rebuttal is built into the script.
Hmm.
So, because the thing about like our industry is that typically you just know what path it's going to go every time. Like, and you will develop your rebuttals as you do your script, or you know, people in your office, your broker, whatever, you know, get as much, you know, universal information that you can when you keep running up against, well, they just won't book the appointment. Okay, well, what are you saying? Give me your script. Give me what you're saying to your customer. And then, you know, usually it's an outside opinion that can give you the right response to head you down the path of overcoming that objection, the rebuttal, and then having that rebuttal so that you can go right back on script again.
Right. Yeah. What are some good resources for you for scripts? So I know like Tom Ferry has a large collection. You can go to like Lab Code Agents, their Facebook group. They have a pretty good collection of scripts. Do you use
Yeah,
anything
I think
else?
Buffini has some
Buffini,
scripts.
yeah.
Tom and Mike Ferry both have scripts.
Are they
Uh,
brothers? Do you know if they're brothers?
no, father son.
Really?
Yeah,
No
crazy,
kidding.
huh? Yeah, Mike's like 100 years old.
Wow. I
Yeah,
had no idea because like I see Tom Ferry is like he's like a shining star in the coaching world, and I see Mike Ferry who's like kind of below him, but I would have
yeah, and
never
then
guessed.
there's another one out there too. I think is it Scott or Tim? But there's also a brother out there doing it too.
Oh God.
Yeah, but he's
Wow.
more of like universal coaching,
Uh,
not necessarily specifically to real estate, I believe.
right.
He does more of like you can integrate these techniques into whatever business that you're doing.
Oh, gotcha.
So, but yeah, it's crazy, man. There's also Real Estate Uncensored. You can go to what is it? Greg's Favorite Scripts. You can find those
Hmm.
online.
Okay.
So
Cool. Yeah, I'm actually I'm putting together a script book, and it also includes things like drip emails and the cold calling and the engagement voicemail drops and the text message campaigns, but then the actual phone script. So you really have everything right then and there. So I'm working on that, guys. Feel free to like leave a comment or something if you're interested on that, and I'll totally create a landing page for that. But actually, I think that's about all we have. Did you want to add anything else?
if we've got some if they've got some new agents out there joining us today, I've got a book coming out called The Real Estate Brain, and it goes through working with your buyers and how to kind of prep them for the purchase process, and it's all from the realtor's perspective. So if you got some clients out there that are going to run rogue on you and just start doing whatever, like a chicken with their head cut off, and they just don't know what they're doing, and you're online and you're looking at stuff, and they're asking other agents information about houses, and you're like, dude, you've been working with me for 6 months, like what is going on? It goes through all of that, kind of the emotional stress that we go through when we have clients like that, and it kind of puts a lighthearted kind of spin on the whole buying process. So that should be coming out here in the next 2-3 months. So be looking for that in 2019. But if you are interested in getting a copy of that, just email me at james.fluellen, and that's FLUELLEN @gmail.com. And I will send you a free book. You just have to pay for shipping. So, and if you got anybody that wants to do a free coaching call, 30-minute call with me, you can just either text me, 307-772-1184, or just send me an email at that email I just mentioned. And, or you can hit me up on my website at jpfluellen.com.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us for another week of Success Agent. If you want to get a hold of me, my email is chris@insynqk.com. Still need to change that one. And I'm also working on my website, but the URL for that is agentsautomated.com. Looking forward to talking with you guys next week. And JP, as always, thanks for joining.
All right, man. Deuces.
Catch you later. Deuces, yeah. All right, I'll catch you later.